Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to break down everything that happened in the spring game this past Saturday. We are going to talk a new top five. We're going to do defensive tackles today. And of course, we're going to talk about the transfer portal that is set to open up in just a few short days on April 16th. So all of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. If you are not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers, so your help with that would be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button while you're in here. It really helps us out on these live videos, and share the video with all of your college football friends, family, anybody that consumes college football content. They don't just have to be a Clemson fan. They can be a fan of any team. Shoot them our way, and we'd love to have them here, a part of our community. And then last but not least, we have the Super Chat feature available. If you guys would like to support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, hit that Super Chat feature. We'll be sure to read and respond to your comment and or question attached to it. And your contribution is greatly appreciated. And with that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I've been better. I told you how my day kind of went today. I hate vehicles, man. I hate cars.
That's right.
I spent $120 today on my car between changing a blown out headlight and getting my state inspection done. So my wallet's hurting. I'm hurting. Yeah. But other than that, I'm living lavish, and things are good.
Yeah, that ain't no fun. That's for sure. Nobody likes dealing with vehicle issues, regardless of how small they are. It always seems to be more than you thought it was going to be going in. That's just par for the course when it comes to dealing with vehicles and repairs and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's been a crazy week. It's been busy. Tons of stuff going on. But just glad that we are here on another edition of the All In Show. I think 115 today. 115th episode of the All In Show. And I'm excited to be here, ready to talk some Clemson football. It's kind of sad, though. It's like bittersweet, this episode. Not because of anything to do with our show, but it's like we're entering the official barren desert of the college football offseason, which we don't subscribe to. We talk about college football year round, but we will have a lot less to talk about now that the spring practice is in the books. The spring game is officially over. We will not be hearing nearly as much coming out. But don't worry, recruiting will be in full swing all summer, and we'll bring you the best content about Clemson football until we get to fall camp.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like you said, this is the time of the college football calendar where things start to die down. Of course, we still have the transfer portal window coming up. I believe it opens on the 16th. Clemson has already had one departure that we'll talk about. But, beyond that, you're like, okay, now it's just recruiting.
Yep.
And you're just counting the days till, I don't know, ACC media days,
right,
when it really starts to feel like the season is approaching. But
yep,
until then, we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs and just kind of hoping that this thing goes by fast, which, doing this show with you has certainly helped the off seasons, go by really fast. So, I don't feel it as much as I used to. I don't know about you.
No, off seasons are certainly way more bearable nowadays. Now that we do this show and we're constantly talking about Clemson football year round now, it certainly shortens the off season for me, definitely, no doubt about that. And also makes recruiting more exciting to follow. When you're getting on here and you're able to talk about it and getting people's questions and all all kind of stuff. So it opened up kind of a whole new. I always kind of followed recruiting loosely, but when we started doing the show, I really started diving deep and really paying attention to all things recruiting. And that for those of you out there that don't pay attention to recruiting, and I get it, I used to kind of be that person. It makes the offseason way more exciting and bearable, and just kind of gets you to that fall camp finish line that you're looking for when you're raring up for the next football season. So that's just my experience with it. It makes it a little bit more to talk about, a little bit more to just kind of read about and dive into and learn about players before they even decide whether they want to come to Clemson or not. It makes it a little bit fun for me anyway. I know a lot of people can get a little irritated about recruiting because of the back and forth, the hot and cold, the ebbs and flows of it, if you will. But it's exciting. And Jackson Johnson is correct. I'm officially on Twitter now. So,
yes, finally.
Jordan finally pulled me over to the dark side of Twitter. So here we go. I'm along for the ride now.
Yeah, man, it's about time. I mean, we have a lot of fun over here. It's not so bad as long as you keep your feed relatively clean. Like I've done a good job at curating my timeline, so it's really my whole timeline is football, is college football, college athletics, and maybe in some music.
Yeah,
that's really it. I mean, recently the algorithm loves pushing the political stuff, but you just gotta I'm gonna
try to swerve past that one.
Yeah,
and keep it college football related on my Twitter.
100%. But yeah, y'all give my boy a follow because we're trying to grow, this brand, this show, and it's about time, man. I did a lot of work, a lot of needling, a lot of poking and prodding. It's like, you should.
Yeah, I know.
Come on over. I mean, we have a good time over here. Like we got a large Clemson group chat that we could be a part of. There's the Burnerverse. Shout out to, this might be the first time the Burnerverse has ever been mentioned on here. That is a interesting side of college football Twitter, but it gives the utmost entertainment at all times. So shout out to all my burners out there. I know some of you are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm ready to jump into it. Oh, here we go. See, here we go. IG now. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
let me get into Twitter and then we'll see. No Wet Sox.
Baby steps.
Yeah. We gotta ease into it. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what Twitter's all about. I'm excited about it though. Excited to get into the groups and chop it up with the people, other Clemson fans. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to it. So you guys give me a follow. And we'll be plugging away over there as well.
We can't comment on that one, Wet Sox. That's that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with a hard pass on that.
Hey, you might do numbers though. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Might. All right. But yeah, hope everybody else is having a good week out there. But it's time to getting in the meat of the show, I guess, Jordan.
Let's do it.
All right, as everybody knows out there, Clemson just did their spring game this past Saturday in Death Valley, South Carolina, and unfortunately, if you were not there in person, you didn't get an opportunity to see it outside of some much needed clips that were circling around the internet between Clemson fans, just kind of showing certain highlights and plays that were happening. There's not a lot out there, but there's enough to kind of get a gist of some of the bigger plays and some of the more exciting things that happened during the spring game. As everybody knows, this is, kind of a weird time for spring games. Lots of schools out there are canceling their spring games or, just doing a fan fest or whatever they're doing. Clemson goes ahead still conducts their spring game, but it was untelevised. So a little bit different of a format in that way, that it wasn't on TV this time. You had to be in person. Also, not the traditional split the team in half, have head coaches, split the staff, the whole nine, draft style spring game that Clemson fans have grown accustomed to over the years. This was a, orange versus white, offense versus defense, good on good, ones versus ones, twos versus twos, threes versus threes, so on and so forth. So that was kind of the new format of the spring game this year. Jordan, what were your kind of thoughts on, just kind of the new way Clemson went about the spring game, it not being on television and not really splitting up the team half and half like they usually do? Is this something that you think is going to stick, or what do you think about the format that we saw?
Yeah, I think largely was a success. The reviews obviously coming out were pretty positive for those that were at the game. It was a lot of fun. It was different. You got to see the good on good. It wasn't, they didn't try to split the teams evenly and do what they used to do. Obviously the not being able to watch it if you weren't at the game sucked, and hopefully there's some kind of compromise that they'll be able to come to maybe in future games. But the actual product itself, I thought was seemed to be really, really good. You got to see not just the starters play, but you got to see a lot of the young guys, a lot of the pieces, the newer pieces on the team. They got opportunities to shine. I thought you got to see the transfers, the backup quarterbacks who had some interesting performances that may have Clemson fans excited. You don't know. And obviously you got to see some of the deeper guys on the defensive depth chart make plays. It felt like it was good on good. And I didn't feel like the offense was overpowering on the day. And I thought the defense it felt like two good units playing against each other, and they both had plays, back and forth, and it turned out to be a pretty exciting affair.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard mostly positive reviews out of Clemson fans coming out of the spring game. I guess it took roughly 90 minutes, 93 minutes, somewhere in there for the entire from start to finish for the entire spring game to play out. So that's certainly a plus, I guess, for keeping fan retention in the stadium, not having people leave, at halftime or in the third quarter or something like that. So probably a little bit quicker of a pace in the stadium without the TV timeouts and stuff like that. They did kind of do the running clock on the second, third, and fourth quarter, outside of the 2-minute drill stuff. Then they went to a regular clock in those instances. But overall, it seemed like it was a hit as far as the format goes. Dabo Swinney was down there with a mic entertaining the crowd like he normally does when it's televised, but it was just him down there kind of doing it. So nothing really changed from that standpoint. My only gripe or complaint is we got to figure out a way to get it back on TV, whether that's some sort of just broadcasting on the Clemson Plus app to keep it a little bit more exclusive if they want it that way. I'd be fine with that. I would just like an opportunity to view it on TV, even if it's just Clemson internal TV where they're broadcasting it on their own app instead of, a big network where they got to take TV timeouts. I get that. I get it from that standpoint, but I think they could do something internal with their media to be able to get it to the Clemson fans that really wanted to watch it. I would not have any gripes about paying a subscription to watch the spring game. I would not care at all. So that'd be another way for them to make money. But yeah, another big change in the stadium was they were selling beer at Clemson for the first time ever. I guess $10 beers were a little bit of a steep cost for people. Saw a little bit of mixed reviews out there.
we have such a wine and cheese portion of the fan base, man. Like, have you ever been to it? Like, that's how you know we've never, like, Clemson has been, like, behind as far as, like, alcohol sales and stuff like that. Because yeah, $10 beers are ridiculous at sporting events in general, but that is just what it is. That's pretty standard.
Yeah, it's kind of
Unfortunately,
par for the course there.
yeah.
They're trying to make money. That's the whole point of it. The point of it is you're paying for the privilege and convenience of being able to drink inside the stadium because you can't bring your own drinks in there. So either you want to drink it and pay the money or not. So I get it. It don't bother me any. But yeah, that's my one gripe from the format. But kind of turning the page from the format and all the festivities that went on. Let's talk a little bit about who jumped out, like who flashed in the spring game. And there were a lot of names being thrown out after the spring game. Dabo Swinney had an interview. Lots of players had interviews as well. But the biggest one was probably Tristan Smith. Had an amazing day, 72-yard touchdown catch, I think, that he took to the house after a missed tackle. I think he ended up with 5 catches for 130-plus yards, somewhere around there. So a really huge day for Tristan Smith, kind of a welcome to Clemson for him. And what an amazing, way to introduce yourself to the Clemson fan base, right? With a huge day like that. I know Eazy-E had a good day. Jeremiah Alexander, I think, led the defense in tackles during the game. Again, only a spring game, only a spring practice, so stats are what they are. But just a few guys that kind of got name dropped for having, pretty substantial days. Chris Denson, quarterback we got on late because of Blake Hebert decommitting and committing to Notre Dame, had himself a day, made himself look really good. CV looked the best he has in any spring game he's ever been involved with at Clemson. Certainly not a flawless day for him, but he looked really good. He looks good running, getting outside the pocket, using his legs as a weapon. And then, of course, Gideon Davison obviously made some pretty big plays, catching the ball out of the backfield. Not a whole lot of running room on the day, but definitely showed why Clemson was so high on him. What were your thoughts on just kind of the guys that popped off the screen, the guys that, had big days and just kind of won the day, I guess, for the spring game?
Yeah, you hit on a few of them. Tristan Smith, obviously, the more and more time that goes on, the more I feel like Clemson really got them one. And when you think about what that means for this room in general, this wide receiver room in general, I mean, you can't be but excited because this isn't just one breakout performance. I mean, this is he's been making plays throughout spring practice, and so that should have Clemson fans really excited because we felt good about that starting group already, and you feel excited about the guys behind him. But when you add a guy like Tristan Smith with his 6'5" frame, his length, his catch radius, underrated after the catch ability as well, like that, you don't find many guys like that, and especially out of the FCS ranks. So Clemson really might have found themselves a diamond in the rough, so to speak. So excited to see how he continues to mature and develop because I think he's a guy that's going to make plays for Clemson in the near future. As far as the defense is concerned, I saw in the safeties, there were a couple of guys that made big plays. Ronan Hannafin, we've been talking about him a little bit throughout this spring practice. I think he's going to be a factor for this defense this year. I really think he is. Joe Wilkinson, the true freshman, came in and played really, really well on the defensive line. Stephylan Green and Vic Burley both flashed at different points, which is really good to see. Darian Mayo had himself a really, really nice day, had his name called quite a few times. It's good to see some of the younger defensive linemen making plays because, we feel really good about this starting group, but you don't really know until they get out there and play. And so against that against that offense making plays, it's exciting to see. And then on the offensive line, Braden Jacobs, I think, was probably the biggest story going in, and he kind of struggled early in the early in the scrimmage, but he really held his own going up against T.J. Parker and Will Helt. Like, he is not a regular true freshman. Like, he could start for a lot of. I feel like I truly believe he would start for a lot of teams right now. He came in just ready to go, and he's only going to be get better throughout his time here. And I think that you're in a good situation, if say Tristan Lay goes out with injury, and obviously he didn't scrimmage. He's been obviously he had cleanup surgery early in the spring, so it's given Braden Jacobs a lot of time to shine, and he really showed himself on Saturday. Some other guys, who am I thinking of? You already mentioned Gideon Davidson. David Azumame had a couple of big runs. I heard that, especially towards the end of that game, he really, really, broke off some big ones. Chris Denson, you already mentioned. He is a guy that I think Clemson. He's a guy that looks the part. Just throws a really pretty ball. He had that nice little wheel route to Gideon Davidson. That was one clip that was shown a good bit. That was a beautiful layered throw. He kind of, he beat the safety and kind of fit it right between the corner. It was a really, really beautiful throw, and you kind of see the arm talent. He still has to get more comfortable in the pocket because he definitely was looking to run a lot. That's just what he did in high school. He's a really, really great athlete, probably the most athletic quarterback on the roster. So, he's going to go and try and make plays with his legs. But when you see that the arm talent is already there and the accuracy, he showed a lot of poise. I think you saw a lot of talent on display. This looks like a team that I think could compete for a national championship this year. That just based off of this tiny little fraction, there's a lot of guys that can play that I feel like will be able to play for you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the running back room a little bit, kind of focusing on that position group for a little bit, just because that's one of the big question marks that we had heading into spring. And obviously, we've heard really good things about Adam Randall. He didn't get a ton of playing time out there. Seems like he's kind of solidified himself as kind of the guy that's probably going to run out there first. And everybody else is just kind of seeing what we got as far as depth goes. But you mentioned Eazy-E. I mean, there was a couple clips there where he was really moving the pile, like driving his legs, not going down very easily, certainly not on first contact. A guy that put some moves on some people. You saw him kind of have some jump cuts in there and, scored a touchdown and he looked really good. That's exciting to see a guy like that, a full year into the program. This is now his second spring at Clemson. You expect him to start making those steps, and it's nice to see it on the field and him actually producing from the running back position. So that's a really good thing there. Obviously, the injuries at running back are still leaving question marks. Jay Haynes has not been able to go all spring, obviously still recovering from that torn ACL late in the season. And then Jarvis Green, with the foot injury in the middle of spring practice. So he didn't really get to go, but obviously that opens up an opportunity for guys like Eazy-E and Gideon Davison and Hammerhead to kind of get in there and just, get a lot of reps. And it seems that the coaching staff likes where the running back room is right now. Again, that's still a question mark, I think, for a lot of Clemson fans post-spring practice. Jordan, I wanted to ask, what are some, we kind of hit some highlights on some, some big plays and some things that went well. What are your, you're sitting here, we're post-spring now. We've saw highlights of the spring game. What are still some big question marks that you have about this team, whether it's a particular position group or a couple position groups, or what's your kind of question marks exiting spring that you feel still need to be answered for this 2025 version of the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, I really just, I mean, the secondary still has it, its work cut out for it, especially deeper, especially after the starters. We don't really have a whole lot of answers there. Backup corner obviously was certainly a position, a group that was heavily criticized by Dabo throughout spring. And he praised them for continually getting better, but we don't really have answers right now. We don't. And with Tavoy Feagin entering the transfer portal, who we'll talk about later, you're there, that room and that picture is not really getting any clearer. So Avion Terrell and Ashton Hampton going to be great corners, and they're going to do what they do. But you got to have more than just them. They can't play all those snaps. You got to have guys that are able to come in and play at a high level for you. Whether that's Brandon Strozer or Corian Gibson, who I thought Corian Gibson of the backup corners had probably the best day. He was the one that Tristan Smith caught that touchdown over, but he was stride for stride with him. He was in position. Tristan Smith is 6'5", and so it is what it is.
When that guy goes and high points the ball, there's not a whole lot you can do about it as a DB, other than maybe a PI. that's
really all you can do
on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we don't really have a whole lot of answers there. Miles Oliver is a guy that has been consistently out of in and out of the injury tent. So we haven't really seen much of him.
Yeah.
You don't really have a whole lot of answers.
Jaden Lucas, even Jaden Lucas, another experienced guy in the room, but he just can't stay healthy.
Exactly.
And he's still not healthy. He didn't participate in spring at all. So that's a veteran guy you got in the room, and a guy that you can trust when he's on the field. But the only problem with Jaden Lucas is you can't trust that he's going to be on the field. So. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You kind of got AV and you got Ashton, and that's a big question mark after that, right? Is Brandon Strozer going to continue to develop and step up? Is Corian Gibson going to be that guy that continues to develop and step up? I see people asking about Shelton Lewis. He was playing nickel early in spring, and then obviously, he got hurt kind of midway through spring, and he's been out ever since. So another guy that kind of is injury prone so far. So
it's unfortunate. But I think the safety room showed me a lot more than I was expecting. I mean, I had high expectations somewhat high expectations, but this safety room, they've got some thumpers, man. I already talked about Ronan Hannafin, but Ricardo Jones. And obviously, I think you feel good about where you are, relatively. You think you're going to have a solid starting group with, Khalil Barnes, and I would assume Kylan Griffin is probably that next guy up.
Yeah.
In the absence of RJ Mickens, but you have some youth that is flashed, but that is still a question mark. And Noah Dixon, a guy I was really high on coming out of high school. He's only a redshirt freshman, so it's like but I feel more comfortable with where the safety room is right now than I do corner, which is a little weird because that's not usually how it goes.
Right. Yeah.
But
definitely, it's especially like depth as well in the safety room. I mean, there's quite a few guys there that you feel like you could trust in meaningful situations.
Yeah. I mean, they've just played more. So they just seem to be coming along faster. Like I feel good. I feel good about where Ronan Hannafin and Ricardo Jones are right now. I can't say that about the guys in the cornerback room right now. And so is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Another big question, I think, as we exit spring and go into the summer transformation phase for this Clemson team, and as we anticipate, fall camp here in a couple months, is the punting situation at Clemson. Obviously, it's not good. And we've gone through a full spring now, and those guys have been quote unquote competitive, to quote Dabo. But even though they're competing with each other, none of them are good enough. I don't think a punt, from what I heard of the spring game, I don't think a punt reached further than 40 yards. And only one really got close to that. There was a lot of shanks and things like that. They couldn't even punt it to, at the end when they were just having fun. They couldn't even punt then in a no pressure situation to a little kid. But that's a big question of concern, I think, for this football team, and maybe something that Clemson, possibly addresses in the portal. I don't know if Dabo will go out and get a punter, but I certainly think it's worth discussing or kind of observe, kind of thinking through the possibility of going to get another punter, because I mean, it just seems like these guys are not going to get it done. And I don't think you go into another season kind of having guys like we currently have that seems to be like it's going to be a repeat of the punting situation last year, which was pretty much a disaster.
Yeah, 100%. And the hope is that your offense is so good you're not punting too much.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what you're banking on right now. If you're not going to go get somebody in the portal, but you got to be able to flip the field, man. And it's been too long. We took Will Spires for granted a little bit, but that has not been a strong suit for Clemson for the past couple of years, and it's certainly hurt them especially in those years where the offense was struggling and you were punting a lot and you had to win the field position battle. And I think they were going to. I mean, I don't think this offense is going to score 50 points on everybody. I mean,
no,
this offense is going to be really good. I feel pretty confident in saying that, but that doesn't mean they're incapable of struggling or having an off game, and where you kind of have to win a little bit more, complimentary wise. You got to win in all three phases. Like that's going to be that's going to happen at some point or another, whether it's during the regular season or a conference championship or a theoretical playoff. There's going to be a time where the offense isn't putting you on your back and you're not having to flip the field at all. Like that just is unrealistic to expect. And I just don't want to come to a point where punting and being unable to flip the field is the reason why you lose a game, when you had the option to go get somebody, that was capable. So, we'll see. We'll see. I don't, Dabo said they felt good where they were at, but that was before Tavoy Feagin entered the transfer portal. Although I feel like that was something that was probably coming.
Yeah, I think he knew that, just by his comments in the same interview, you kind of feel like he knew that Tavoy Feagin was going to be gone by just saying that, he wasn't here. So I think that was probably something that he already knew when he made that comment. But again, I certainly think punter is a position of concern, major concern, heading into this post-spring period and potentially something Clemson may need to address in the transfer portal. But, kind of turning the page to the offensive line, Jordan, we saw a lot of new faces out there in the spring game for the offensive line. You didn't have, Tristan Lay out there because of, him recovering from that cleanup surgery that he had. You didn't have quite a few guys out there. And you already mentioned the young guy that got a lot of head turning in Braden Jacobs, just kind of a massive individual, a massive human being, 6'7". Dabo mentioned it in his presser that, he's kind of the first guy off the bus. He's just, he looks the part. And looks like he played pretty well in the spring game, held his own against the likes of, TJ Moore and or excuse me, TJ Parker and Khalil, or excuse me, Jaheim Lawson, and all those defensive ends that rotated through and that he had to block. Certainly wasn't perfect, but definitely you can see the immediate impact that this guy can have on this Clemson offensive line. And something that Dabo talked about in his presser was all of the young offensive line that kind of got a Matt Luke boot camp because we were missing so many of our starting offensive line that were out for postseason surgeries, cleanups, those sorts of things, just addressing things that they knew they were going to have to address in the offseason, which they did. So a lot of these young guys got a lot of burn this spring. And, Dabo kind of alluded to it being a kind of a Matt Luke boot camp. So what were your thoughts on some of these young offensive linemen that we got to see? And maybe their future potential as they grow into bigger roles as Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, you have to feel good. I mean, and the track record and just the one season that Matt Luke has been here has been overwhelmingly positive, and you've seen the development. There just seems to be a lot more confidence in the depth than you've had in quite some time, and you feel good, despite having multiple guys go out, during the spring, that we're going to have guys ready to go if something were to happen. Where you're not going to be in a situation where you're going to have to put out somebody who's just unplayable, but he's the best you have right now, which at times you had to do in previous years. Like I feel really, really good about where this offensive line is, just in terms of the quality of player, the caliber of player, the type of player that you have. I mean, you have guys that have positional versatility, but also they're big. They play big. They're not the undersized guys that you used to recruit. They're underrated or like a lot of these guys are they're highly recruited. Some of the best at their position. Like this is the most talented I think of a offensive line group as you've had in quite some time. And so, with that being said, and with Matt Luke and just the progression that you saw in year one, you have to feel good. And they certainly held their own against a really, really stout defensive front, and that's encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely, very encouraging. I think overall it was a pretty good spring. Switching over to the other side of the ball, the linebacker position, the addition of Alexander, Jeremiah Alexander, was I think huge for this linebacker room. He stepped up in the spring game, and again, it's only a spring game, and that's don't really mean a whole lot. But again, this is a guy who transitioned to the linebacker position back when he was at Alabama. Now he's at Clemson under a new defensive coordinator, and he looks to be kind of thriving in this Clemson system. Led the team in tackles at the spring game, and just seems to be like he's gaining some comfort, some level of comfort with Tom Allen and this defensive scheme. He seems to have really bonded with that group there, and looks to be a guy that can contribute this season. I know we got Sammy Brown. I know we got Wade Woodaz, and those two guys are absolutely going to run out there first. But we have been in need of some good quality depth at the linebacker position for a long time. And with some of the guys that you would expect to start to contribute out this spring, it was a good opportunity for Jeremiah Alexander and other guys to step in and get a lot of burn and develop. So what's your kind of thoughts on the linebacker room exiting spring?
Yeah, I mean, you have some questions, but I think they answered some of them. I feel good, better about where this group is fundamentally, tackling, that kind, from that perspective. I think Ben Boulware has certainly had an impact. I think they're playing with a lot more tenacity, a lot more aggressiveness, just a lot more like what we were used to getting out of Clemson linebackers. was told that, Wade Wood, as you mentioned him, he's a guy that, he put on some weight last year,
Yeah.
To play inside and be beefier, but it felt like he was a step slow because of it. And, when Wade Wood has been at his best during his career, I mean, obviously his true freshman year, he was playing a lot of safety, but he was slimmer. He was flying to the ball. He was playing downhill, but he could also, he was also covering, and he just looked a lot more sure of himself playing at a lower weight. So I've been told that he looks leaner than he did last year, which I think is good for this group. And if you have Wade Wood and Sammy Brown healthy and playing at a high level, and Jeremiah Alexander potentially being that guy that, that really elevates the floor of this room, then things should look really, really improved, compared to last year. And because, I mean, these guys are talented. I mean, Sammy Brown, obviously, we know how talented Sammy Brown is. Wade Wood absolutely has the NFL in his future. And I think with Jeremiah Alexander puts together a strong season, we could be talking about him in that conversation as well. So when you think about the younger guys, the guys that we haven't seen as much, the Kobe McLeods, the CJ Kuba Taylors, the D Craytons, if you kind of have a buffer now, and those guys can continue to get better as well. And, they've heard good things about them as well. So, this linebacker room, I feel a lot more comfortable now than I did certainly like 4 months ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you need guys to step up because, Kobe McLeod's still out recovering from that ACL. Jamal Anderson out, Logan Anderson out. So, much like the offensive line, some of those guys that have been in the program for a little bit were out this spring. So, you get a lot of burn from them young guys. And, it sounds like they were up for the challenge and they're developing. And it was interesting to hear Jamal Anderson talk about Ben Boulware as a linebacker coach and just how intense he can be. And, Jamal Anderson was kind of like, yeah, he's a little over the top sometimes, but, he's been where we've been, and he's gonna push those guys to the absolute limit because that's just who Ben Boulware is. Everybody knows who watched him play that he is going to be very intense, and he's going to hold those guys to a really high standard. So I'm excited to see how that linebacker room develops, but certainly I think we're in a much better place depth-wise than we were heading into spring, because that was certainly a huge question mark. Any other position groups you want to highlight before we kind of turn the page and get to our super chat here?
I mean, I think we hit on it. I mean, the defensive line already hit on. You mentioned some of the guys that flashed. We didn't get to see too much of the tight ends. That's probably the one thing that I was kind of disappointed. I wanted, but they just didn't see the ball a whole lot. Adam Randall seemed to be on the pitch count. I think he got maybe the first couple of series and then he was done.
Yeah, they weren't too interested in running him very much.
No. Which, hey, I get it. He's the first team guy. Like, you need to have him healthy. You're going to need him this year. And so, that was kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. I understood, and certainly it was true for the other, big names on offense. You didn't see a ton of TJ Moore or Bryant Wesco or Antonio Williams. They were in non-contact jerseys.
Yeah.
And so, but you got to see some of the guys lower in the depth chart. Cole Turner had a couple of big plays on the day too. And so, didn't get to see a ton of Tyler Brown. So L on my prediction that he would be the MVP, but it was cool to see Tristan Smith kind of, take up that role.
I think Tyler Brown only had one catch.
Yeah. He didn't see too many targets. So, it is what it is.
I stand by the prediction that he is going to be a huge piece in this offense this year. I still stand by that. I'm not saying he's going to put up the Antonio Williams numbers of the 2024 season, but I expect a somewhat similar bounce back from him from a season just riddled with injuries. I think he's going to remind people in short order exactly who he is. And I think a lot of people have forgotten. And he's going to be a big piece of that wide receiver. I mean, you just think about that wide receiver room. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And if Tristan Smith is anything close to what he showed that he has the potential to be in that spring game, I mean, wow. We got some problems out there wide for the Tigers this year. And you can just rattle right down the list of the roster guys that are in that room, and there's not a ton of drop off. There's a lot of really talented wide receivers on this team. With a little bit of luck and a little bit of health, they got a potential to be a really good group this coming year.
Yeah, I'm this close to saying what you probably can guess. I'm thinking about this room in terms of where they stand.
Yeah, I think we have certainly we've shifted back to the days of old of what you traditionally think of when you think of a Clemson wide receiver room. This room is it. I fully believe that this room is it. We got diversity of skill set, of body types. There's really no missing piece in this wide receiver room, I don't think.
I would have to agree.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our super chat real quick. I don't want to leave them hanging any longer than we have already. Sorry for delaying so long. He says Chris Denson looked good. He reminds me of a freshman Deshaun Watson. Y'all's thoughts on this? And go Tigers.
Yeah, I'm obviously the Deshaun Watson comparisons. I get where you're coming from in terms of like just how he looks. Deshaun Watson came, he was kind of thin, but he threw such a good ball, and you're like, oh my god, okay, yeah, he's going to be really good. Yeah. I'm not going to go that far, but Chris Denson looks the part, and I wasn't sure what we were going to see. And he's come in, and I think I think the Clemson coaching staff is a little bit surprised at how good he's been. Obviously he's not a finished product, and he certainly has his growing to do. He's certainly not a finished product by any means, but man, like he's farther along. He's way farther along than they expected him to be. I truly believe that based off of what they've said about him. And that's exciting. I still am of the opinion that Chris Feagin is the guy next season, but Chris Denson is, being this far along now is huge because, he would be presumably that next guy up, that backup quarterback next season.
Absolutely.
If he takes the steps if he continues to develop, because he's going to be such a weapon. I mean, he's already such a weapon with his legs, but and he throws a really good ball. Once he's comfortable within the offense, he could end up being a really good player for you. So that was exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, the coaching staff is definitely pleasantly surprised with what they have in Chris Denson. Obviously a guy that they got on late because of the Blake Hebert decommitment and all of that stuff that happened. But I think they're pleasantly surprised at the guy that, they flipped from Coastal Carolina to come to Clemson. And, the best part about it is we don't need him right now. So he's got plenty of time to develop. He's got plenty of time to go in there and get in power hour and develop his lower half, which is something that Dabo Swinney said that he really needed to do that will help him with his throwing. Not that he doesn't throw a good ball, but obviously developing his lower half will help him get a lot more on the ball and be able to make more of those throws. Obviously, he's a dynamic athlete. I mean, that's first thing you notice, right? Very dynamic athlete, a guy that can really be dangerous with his legs. So I'm excited about it. And, from everything that Chris Feagin showed us in the spring game and everything that the coaching staff is saying about him, he's obviously, somewhat solidified himself as the guy that's going to take the reins after Cade Klubnik leaves after this season. However, it's never a bad thing to have a quarterback behind him that can really, truly push him, so that we have the best possible player on the field. And if that's Chris Fazzina, awesome. If that's Chris Denson, awesome. I think it's a good problem to have. And, the best part about it in my book is he's got plenty of time to develop, because we're not going to need him this season, hopefully, unless catastrophe hits.
Yeah. Let's knock on wood on that one. But
knock on some wood. There we go.
Yeah, no, 100%. And he's a lefty, so when is the last time Clemson has had a starting lefty? I don't think there's been one in my lifetime.
I can't think of a left-hand quarterback.
You might. I feel like you have to go back to. I'm going through them in my head. Like, yeah, I mean, none of the Dabo era quarterbacks were lefties.
No.
No, not Colin Harper was a righty. Will Proctor, Charlie Whitehurst, Woody Dantzler. I know I skipped one.
I don't know.
I don't. We don't have. I can't. No. I feel like you have to go. Probably have to go to the 90s.
I don't know who it would be.
Somebody must know. Somebody's got to know, because I don't think, unless I'm wrong, I can't think of any starting quarterback for Clemson that was a lefty.
No, not starting. No,
at least not in my lifetime. So that would be a refreshing, change, in terms of, especially a dynamic, a lefty quarterback that can run. That's tough, man. That's different. That would be exciting to see if he were, if he eventually becomes a starter here. I'd be all for it.
That'd be great. Let the best man win the job. But yeah, John, that's kind of the consensus coming out of the spring game is CV's definitely taking that next step and looks to firmly be that QB2, and honestly be capable of running this offense at a pretty high level. Should anything happen this year, which of course we hope Cade Klubnik stays healthy and plays the entire season, but it's always good to have confidence in your backup that he could step in and play football at a high level and continue to run your offense. So I think we definitely have that in Chris Fazzina heading into the 2025 season. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll go ahead and leave that there. I think we'll leave the spring intel there, the spring game. We'll talk about it as the weeks come, as more is written about it. Maybe we'll get a better look at the full spring game. Obviously, all we've seen is highlights and read reports and listen to interviews and stuff like that. Hopefully, at some point in time, we get to see the full spring game, whether that be on Clemson Plus or something like that. But, spring's officially over for the Tigers. The good news is we got out of it without any sort of major injuries. We're relatively healthy heading into summer, the transformation phase, skills and drills, all that kind of stuff. So, here's to grinding this offseason, grinding in the summer. And I can't wait for fall camp to hit for this 2025 version of the Clemson Tigers. We have so much talent. We have so much experience. We have so much veteran leadership on this team. I expect it to be a very, very exciting season for the Clemson Tigers and the fan base as well. So shout out to the 2025 Clemson Tigers and spring practice being over. Oh boy.
We good?
Yeah, I think we're good. My computer's just being a little weird right now, but we're good to go.
All right. We can see it on the screen. So if it's like frozen or something, we can see it.
Okay. All right, if you guys are interested in partnering with the Voice of College Football, with the All In Show right here, reach out to us, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See what our partner, Win Agency, has to say about its sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how you can reach your target market. Again, contact us at sponsorships at the Voice of College Football, and we would be more than happy to partner with you guys and have you guys sponsor the show, our show, any show on the Voice of College Football Network. If you yourself have a small business or you know of anybody that would like to partner with the Voice of College Football, reach out to us at that email, sponsorships at the Voice of College Football.com. That's sponsorships at vocfb.com.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Arthur, for answering that, because that was going to bother me. I couldn't think of it. It was Richard Moncrief in 1992. That sounds right.
Yeah. That's way back. That's way back.
Yeah, I knew you had. I knew I wasn't tripping, because I was like, I cannot remember a single lefty quarterback that started a game like for Clemson. Like we have not had very many.
No.
So that's awesome. I'm gonna have to keep that in my mind for that. That'll be a fun like Clemson.
That's a good trivia question to pull out on people.
Yeah.
You know. All right, we got 28 people live chat right now. Hit that like button while you guys are in here. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All In Show right here, 8 p.m. every Wednesday, year-round, talking Clemson football, talking college football. Hope you guys will subscribe. Hope you'll like the video and come hang out with us. Share it with all your friends and family, whoever consumes college football content. We'd love to have them on board. Transitioning to the transfer portal, Jordan. As we know, there is yet another transfer portal window that will be opening up as soon as April 16th. And Clemson has already had its first portal casualty. Dabo was asked about it during his post-game interview or his post-spring game interview and said, yes, he wasn't here today. Basically is what he said, and didn't elaborate any further. And then obviously the news hit that he would be entering the transfer portal. So Jordan, your thoughts on our first portal deflection, if you will, in the 2025 spring portal season, we'll call it.
Yeah. Tavoy Feagin is a guy that I really liked coming out of high school. I thought he was one of the more under recruit. I mean, he was a 4-star recruit, but it felt like he didn't get a whole lot of love from the recruiting services towards the end of that cycle. But he's a guy I thought would come in, and honestly, I thought he would develop faster than he ended up. He had a lot of things that he needed to work on, not just like on the field, but off the field. And I think it contributed to, kind of a lack of, development from his time he got on campus. And I don't think he had a strong spring overall. And I think the writing was kind of on the wall. I think there was some maturity things that I think he needed he's going to have to go through. And it felt like this was something the staff felt like was coming.
Yeah.
So, I don't really have too many like comments on it. It's just something that seemed to be, especially going back probably at least a month, felt like this was something that was trending in this direction. So, best of luck to him. I think he's a really talented football player, but I think there were some things that he needed to be better at as far as accountability that he just wasn't meeting. And he decides that he's going to try and he's going to try his luck somewhere else, and we'll see how that goes for him. But
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously it's never ideal when you have players that you highly recruited and that you really wanted to commit to your program and you finally get them on campus. It's never ideal when they transfer. I mean, I get it. Some people out there are going to be like, you know, there's always a section of the fan base that are like, we never needed this guy anyway, whatever, he can go wherever. I mean, I don't think that's the case. Obviously, it didn't work out with Tavoy Feagin for whatever reason. Obviously, I think there were some behind the scenes issues not related to football that contributed to this, most likely. But he redshirted last season. He only appeared in 2 games. I think he had 11 total snaps over his one and only season as a Clemson Tiger. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out because much like you, I thought he was going to be a really good player for Clemson. I thought he was going to develop into a really nice defensive back for us, and it just wasn't in the cards. It didn't work out, and you just wish the young man well. You hope that he kind of matures a little bit, and when he gets to wherever he lands, I wish him the best, and I hope he has all the success. Again, no hard feelings. Obviously, I would have rathered him stay at Clemson and develop and become one of our key pieces down the road. But that's not going to happen. So wish him the best, and you kind of move on.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned we like to think that when Clemson lands, these kids out of high school, like they come in like they just all have it figured out. That's never been the case. No. You do get those guys that have come in and they carry themselves like adults already. But
right.
These are 17, 18-year-olds living on their own for the first time and also being exposed to a lot of things as athletes that even the average student isn't normally exposed to.
Right.
And I think, it's natural, even at Clemson where, they pride themselves on accountability and stuff. Still happens. So, I think that definitely played a part. But you've had guys that came in and had to mature a little bit before they really, got going. We've had multiple corners like that.
Yeah.
Nate Wiggins, Andrew Booth was like that.
Booth, yep.
Mario Goodrich. It's not. This is not anything new.
No,
but just in the age of the transfer portal, you don't have. There's less guardrails and there's more incentive for the kids not to try and stick it out. And
right,
and so that's just kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, Clemson's had tons of these players that have taken the road less traveled, right? Like the tough road, and then kind of had to grow up a little bit and get put in the Sweeney doghouse and do their punishments and do their extra work that's required of them, and eventually it clicks and they get it and they turn into great players at Clemson. But as you mentioned, in the transfer portal world that we currently live in, it's easy to just kind of throw your hands up and walk away and be like, I'm gonna go try somewhere else, right? And I think a lot of fans sometimes are a bit too harsh on some of these student athletes with all the stuff that you mentioned, the things that have thrown at them. First time living away from home, a lot of them the first time having real money, and you can make some poor choices when you're a young person and you get thrown into that sort of environment. It's not easy, and any of us adults who sit back and kind of judge, we don't know how we would have acted if we had access to all that kind of stuff at 17, 18 years old. Probably wouldn't have made.
I would have been acting a fool.
Probably wouldn't have made very good decisions. So, I don't ever fault these guys. They'll live and learn. They'll grow up. They'll mature. They'll become better because you learn from making mistakes, and everybody does that. So, again, wish Tavoy Feagin the best, and I'm sure he will do great wherever he lands. He is a very talented cornerback. and he will. I do think he will have success. So wish him the best. Now, talking about the transfer portal, it officially opens up on the 16th. Jordan, should Clemson fans expect any more transfer portal entries from this current roster as it sits?
Yeah, I don't think you can rule it out. There have certainly been, as good of a spring as I think it was for this team. That they weren't. It wasn't without the players that struggled. And Tavoy Feagin was one of them. I certainly haven't heard positive things about a couple of other guys. Don't necessarily know that means they're entering the portal, but it's just something to keep an eye out on. I won't drop names for now because that's just it's not appropriate to. Right. But that's kind of the situation, and so I don't expect any major contributors, that's for sure. I mean, I think the group, the core of this team is locked in, and I think a lot of the guys, a lot of your depth is locked in, but can't rule out the couple of guys that are especially the ones that are younger and haven't been in the program as long. Yeah, you can't rule it out. So I don't have anything for sure. So I can't guarantee that you lose another person, but will not shock me.
I mean, obviously this is the name of the game. Exiting spring, everyone knows where they sit currently on the depth chart, right? Everybody knows roughly what their playing time would look like if there were to be a game played today. And each individual player is going to have to make a decision that they feel is best for them. And will that result in some transfers from this current Clemson roster outside of Tavoy Feagin? Probably. It certainly it'll be more if nobody transfers than if we have a couple more transfer, right? It's just kind of the name of the game. It's the nature of the college football that we currently live in. And, you hope that you don't lose any big pieces, right? And if you do, well, you go to the portal and you try to fill those pieces because there is no high school recruiting right now. You can't just grab somebody from high school and put them on your roster to replace somebody. So, if you lose too many people or, you lose a big enough piece, you got to go in the portal and address it. So, again, that'll develop over the next couple weeks. And I don't foresee there being any sort of mass exodus from Clemson. That's kind of never been the case. Clemson's probably, if not the best, one of the best programs when it comes to retention of their roster. So I don't suspect for Clemson to lose any major pieces or a lot of pieces for that matter. So I think we'll be okay. And again, wish Tavoy Feagin the best, and hopefully he is the only transfer from this roster because as Dabo Swinney said and the coaching staff has said, during spring and now exiting spring, they are very happy with this roster. Not that it's ready to go today, but they feel like they're in a good place and the guys are going to make the steps needed over the summer and in fall camp, and they will be ready to rock and roll with this group as it stands. So here's to hoping that we don't lose too many pieces.
Yep. Here's to hoping. You never rule anything out. And, I always – but, a lot of the guys, like really, at this point, it's, for in a lot of cases, like, okay, if you were going to leave, you had the opportunity before. But
right.
So, like, I don't expect – I'm not expecting any, significant moves. You might have a guy here or there, but I don't expect a large attrition number.
Yeah.
Who knows? I end up putting my foot in my mouth, but
yeah, I don't expect, but it would surprise me if there was a large amount of transfers. It would surprise me. So I don't think that's happening. Do you guys think Dabo will try to get a corner in the portal? No, I don't.
It doesn't seem like that.
With the
That's something they're
potential of the house settlement and going down to 105, there's already a lot of players that are currently that were practicing in spring practice that will not be on the team when they have to cut down to 105. So I don't foresee Dabo going into the transfer portal unless we lose, a few more people, and that'll obviously depend on which position group it is, who it is, what kind of hole that leaves on the roster. So a lot of big ifs there. The only thing that I could potentially see him going into the portal for is a punter. Like I said before, I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't mind him doing that, but I don't think he will try to replace Tavoy Feagin via the transfer portal in this cycle.
And what my conspiracy theory is, and I was talking about it with a couple other Clemson guys. I really feel like the answer is just going to move Tink Kelly to corner full time and just call it a day.
Yeah,
he's already been repping a corner all spring, basically.
Right. Yeah, he spent all spring at corner, so there you go. And who's to know that didn't influence Tavoy Feagin's decision? I don't know. I don't know how well Tink Kelly looked over there or developed over there, and again, you never know. We're not privy to those kind of depth chart things or conversations that they have with the coaches. So there could be a lot of things that influence a decision like this. But again, we'll continue to monitor as the transfer portal continues to develop. Again, it doesn't open until the 16th. So although if people are going to leave, they can announce it now. They don't have to necessarily wait until the 16th to announce that they are leaving. So we'll obviously watch it as it develops over the next couple of weeks. But I don't expect it to have a huge impact on the Clemson Tigers. It really hasn't in the past. So make sure you guys are following us on all the audio streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you go to, search Clemson Live, and you'll find me and Jordan's content on there. All of our long form content, our videos, all that stuff. It will be on there in podcast format. So when you're either on a long drive or running, working out in the gym, whenever and wherever you like to listen to your podcast, give us a follow, rate, review, subscribe over there. Again, you can get it on any of your major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Give us a follow over there. It'd be greatly appreciated. We're trying to grow our podcast platforms as well. So your help with that, guys, would be greatly appreciated. All right, Jordan, last topic of the night. We are going to do another top 5. This has been a good series. Everybody has enjoyed it in the comment section. 100% of the time, everybody always agrees with our list that we end up with, Jordan. I haven't heard any complaints so far. So, we're going to keep it going. Everybody always agrees with our top 5, but we're going to do top 5 defensive tackles all time for the Clemson Tigers, according to us. Okay. So if you don't like our list, it's okay, because it's just according to us. You can have a completely different list. But what I would like you guys to do, get into the comment section, give me some of your top 5, right? You don't have to rank them in order if you don't want to. Just give me some of your top 5 guys that you would put all-time top 5 defensive tackles for the Clemson Tigers. Jordan, you want to lead it off?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to start. I mean, this is going to be one of the tougher ones we do, because obviously the tradition at Clemson has been so.
We got a pretty big group of defensive tackles to choose from.
Yeah, we do. But we both what do we do? We both list, and then we just kind of
we just kind of list a bunch of names between me and you, and then in the end we'll circle back and put it in a top 5.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll start
We're
with
just
an obvious
naming
one.
people right now. We're not ranking. We're just naming people
Yeah. This
that
is
are in
not
the,
this is
that
not
are
an
in the
order.
conversation of the top 5 according to us.
All right. So I'll start. Christian Wilkins. I think that's a fairly obvious one. You gotta. I think he's a guy he's got to be in there somewhere. Multiple year All American. Came back for his senior year, won 2 national championships. Was one of the the faces of Clemson football during that playoff run. I mean, not really much else to say. One of the bigger personalities that Clemson has had, that for sure. So
here you go. Just a quick stat line on Christian Wilkins. 250 tackles, 41 tackles for loss, 16 sacks, 56 quarterback pressures. He was a 3-time All-American and was the 5th unanimous All-American in 2018 in program history. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good case to be top 5 in Clemson history. I'm gonna take it a little further back in history. I'm gonna go William Refrigerator Perry for a top 5.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was Clemson's first 3-time All-American, ACC Player of the Year in 1984. Left Clemson with 60 tackles for loss and 27 sacks. So good for 4th on the all-time list. A legend at Clemson. One of the first guys you think of when you think about defensive linemen and Clemson is William Refrigerator Perry. Also had an amazing NFL career as well. But again, he makes this list for what he did at Clemson, and he was nothing short of spectacular.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to have him on there. I'm gonna make it simple. I'm gonna go with his brother, Michael Dean Perry.
Hey, there you go. He's on there.
He's got. I think you got to have him in. He's got to be in that conversation as well. Honestly, he had a better NFL career than his brother.
He did.
I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, he wasn't on those national championship teams. I think that's probably why he doesn't get the teams plural. I don't mean plural. The national championship team. So he probably doesn't get the same amount of love that his older brother did. But I think he was almost as dominant and just phenomenal football player, multiple year All-American. I already mentioned his NFL career.
Yeah.
I think he has to be on the list.
Yeah, for sure. ACC Player of the Year, 61 tackles for loss, school record, 28 sacks on the list, on the short list of school record for sacks as well. So definitely a guy that deserves to be in that top 5 conversation, no doubt about that. Let's see. Next one I'm going to go with Dexter Lawrence. Big Dex, I think I don't think you can, have a top 5 conversation without mentioning Dexter Lawrence's name. He was, one of the anchors of a really elite defensive line group at Clemson. From top to bottom, that defensive line room was absolutely insane. But he was like the anchor in the middle of that defense that truly, kind of gave offenses fits and ate up blocks, and was a big time run stopper and pressuring the quarterback. And, even you look at his NFL career right now. I mean, the guy is, having crazy amounts of sacks as a defensive tackle in the NFL, right? So just a physical specimen and a guy that, throws offensive linemen around and makes them look really ridiculous for a living. So got to be in the top 5 conversation for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think no debating that. Phenomenal NFL career going on right now. Great Clemson career, and he's just a freak. But just pound for pound, one of the best players.
Yeah,
in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I think finished his career with 162 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, and 11 sacks. So an amazing Clemson career. The only sad part is he did not get to participate at the end, and that's unfortunate. But he should have been on the field. I don't care what they say.
Yeah. That's a conversation we could explore one day.
We could dive into a whole That's a rabbit trail we don't need to go down right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Maybe another. We'll save that for the summertime. That can be a rant we go off on.
All right, I'm going to go back in the time machine, going back to that those early Danny Ford teams. I'm going Jeff Bryant. I think he's got to be up there. First team All-American. The national team captain. And just one of the anchors of that championship defense. You think you got to go with him?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. I'll go back in the time machine as well. I'm going to go Jim Stuckey.
That's a great pick.
All-American.
Jim Stuckey was on my list.
Finished his career with 10 sacks. Played for Danny Ford.
Yeah.
Played for a couple coaches, but Danny Ford as well. So, again, All-American, great defensive tackle for the Tigers.
Yeah, I saw Kevin Dodd and Gaines Adams were defensive ends. We're just doing defensive tackles, but they –
Yeah. Defensive tackles. We did defensive ends last show? Did we do last show? Yeah, last show. Gaines Adams was on our defensive ends.
Where did we have him? Where did we have him? Did we have him 2?
I think we had him 2. We had we have Vic Burley 1 or Vic Burley.
Hey, maybe. Yeah.
We'll see. We had God. What's his name?
I think we had Vic Beasley.
Vic Beasley, yes. Vic Beasley 1.
And then
Gaines Adams.
I think it was Gaines Adams. I think that was the consensus top 2. I think we both agreed.
That's where we got. Yeah. Yes, Isaac Smith. Grady Jarrett.
Yes.
Absolutely Grady Jarrett.
He was next on the list after the person I was just about to name that James took in Chester McLaughlin. So
Chester McLaughlin, yep.
You guys are beating us to the punch because we're yapping.
Yeah.
Chester McLaughlin was going to be my next pick. And it's so difficult when we do these because it's like you get down, you have like a list of names floating in your head, and then you'll drop one, and then you're like, oh shoot, man, maybe he.
Now we got Chester McLaughlin and Grady Jarrett, and So how many are we up to now? Do we need to stop and make a top 5 ranking?
I think that's good. Okay, so we have Christian Wilkins, we have Big Dex, we have both Perry brothers.
We got Jeff Bryant,
Jim Stuckey, Grady Jarrett, Chester McLaughlin.
Who are we missing? I thought we had somebody else.
Was there someone we didn't name?
All right, we had Christian Wilkins.
Yes.
Both the Perry brothers.
Big Dex.
Jeff Bryant. Jim Stuckey. Grady Jarrett. And
Chester McLaughlin.
All right, so there we go.
So that's 7?
That's the 7 so far.
Okay.
So we got to leave 2 people off the 5.
Or is that 7 or 8? I can't remember if I counted two. Counted two when you said both Perry brothers. I was counting on my fingers.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8.
Okay,
So,
yeah, okay. I don't think I did 2 fingers when I mentioned the Perry brothers.
That's 8. So we got 8.
Okay, now we got to put this into a top 5.
Now we got to go top 5. Who's going to be the overall number 1 defensive tackle for the Clemson Tigers?
Damn. Do you have a name? Do you know?
I do have a name.
Okay.
Some people might be mad. Well, I guarantee you people are going to be mad. But
okay, we're doing this based off of their Clemson careers, correct?
Clemson career only.
Okay, my number one. Let's say our number one's at the same time. See if we agree. Well, it might not be exactly the same because of a delay, but
Okay. Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Christian Wilkins. Okay, we're good.
All right. We're good. I just figure some people might get, some people might want, Refrigerator Perry there. I don't know, but for me, it's Christian Wilkins. Just not only what he did on the field, but just like his charisma, how he brought everybody else up on the defensive line, not only the defensive line, but the team. He was just, that guy's Clemson through and through, man. So, yeah, he's number 1 for me. I'm glad we agree.
Man, now you guys wait till we finish to mention Brinson Buckner and Brandon Thompson. Man, Brandon Thompson doesn't get enough love, man. Those early 2010 teams, he was a dude. There, like I said, there's too many guys that you could argue to be on this list. But we had to narrow it down. DJ Reader,
DJ Reader,
Carlos Watkins. You have to draw the line somewhere.
Right. Tyler Davis is another great one.
Tyler Davis. Oh man, Tyler Davis would be a great pick.
It's another great one. There's so many guys, but we're just gonna work. We're gonna work what we got. Deshaun Williams. Yeah. Nick Eason. Yeah, there you go.
Nick Eason.
Nick Eason.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go. I would think Refrigerator Perry 2. Christian Wilkins 1. Refrigerator Perry 2.
I think that's what I'm going to go with too.
Both 3-time All-Americans. I think those have got to be your 1 and 2s.
I think I'm with you, man. Yeah.
So Christian Wilkins, William Refrigerator Perry. Who we going 3?
Oh, okay. I'm going Big Dex.
Big Dexter Lawrence. Okay.
Who are you thinking?
No, Dexter Lawrence is fine with me.
Okay.
I'm 100% okay with that. Yep. All right. So who do we have left on the list? So 1, 2, and 3 are taken. Christian Wilkins, William Perry, Dexter Lawrence.
Yes.
Who do we have that we? So we got.
We still got Jeff Bryant.
We still got Jim Stuckey. We still got Michael Dean Perry.
Yeah.
And
one more. Do we mean Chester McLaughlin?
Chester McLaughlin and Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. 4 and 5. Where are we going?
Michael Dean Perry.
That's the name. That's who I was thinking. I think you have to have.
I don't think he could be any lower.
Because you could argue he
we put Dex over him, but you could argue he could go over Dex.
Yeah.
But I like where Dex is at, and let's put Michael Dean Perry number 4.
Yeah.
So here comes the hard part, the 5th one.
Oh man, somebody's got to get cut. We got with 3 people. I mean, we keep 8 names, so we
got to cut 3 people. So out of our list, we got Jim Stuckey, right?
Yep.
Chester McLaughlin, Jeff Bryant, and Grady Jarrett. So let's cut 1.
I'm gonna cut Chester.
Okay. I'm okay with that. Yep.
I'm gonna cut Chester.
All right, so cut Chester. All right, we got to cut another one out of Jeff Bryant, Jim Stuckey, and Grady Jarrett. I'm going to cut Grady Jarrett.
I don't feel good about cutting Grady.
You don't feel good about that? All right, so who do we cut? Let's cut Jeff Bryant then.
I don't like cutting Jeff Bryant either. Okay, hold on. Okay,
we got to cut one of them.
We got okay. All right. We got to choose. I don't feel good about cutting any of these guys, honestly.
I don't either.
Okay, we're gonna piss. We're definitely gonna piss some old heads off too. Because
Jeff Bryant was part of the national title team.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's like I can't say cut Jeff Bryant. Oh God.
So that's got to count for something.
I'm really struggling. Okay, cut Jim Stuckey.
All right, Jim Stuckey's out. So we got Jeff Bryant and Grady Jarrett. We got to pick one.
Oh, I think we got to cut Grady.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, that hurts.
All right, so Christian Wilkins, William Refrigerator Perry, 2. 3, Dexter Lawrence. 4, Michael Dean Perry. 5, Jeff Bryant. 6.
Grady was the last cut, right?
Or no? 6, yeah. Grady Jarrett. 7, Jim Stuckey.
Yep.
8
Chester.
Chester McLaughlin. So there's your top 8. Grady Jarrett's the first one out of the top 5. I hate leaving them out, but you got to give Jeff Bryant his flowers for being the anchor to the defensive line that won the first national championship at Clemson. That's got to give you something.
I don't think you could tell the story of Clemson football without talking about Jeff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's the anchor of that defensive line. So got to give him the nod. He's in the top 5. So there you have it, folks. We're too young. James Thompson said we're too young for that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Like there's going to be a flavor of recency bias in all of me and Jordan's.
But hey, we cut. Hold on, but we cut Grady Jarrett. Like if we really wanted to be,
that's true. If we were being the true young bucks, I would have cut somebody else and put.
Yeah, Grady Jarrett would have been in the top 5. Like
yeah.
So we have more pre-Dabo players. We have more pre-21st century players than we do 21st century players. So
3 out of the 5 are like old school players.
Yeah.
So we only put 2 new school guys in there, Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody's refuting Christian Wilkins or Dexter Lawrence being in there.
Yeah,
no. So there you have it. There's our top 5. Christian Wilkins 1, William Refrigerator Perry 2, Dexter Lawrence 3, Michael Dean Perry 4, and Jeff Bryant 5. That's according to me and Jordan. So we had 8 and we had to narrow it down to 5. It was not easy, Grady Jarrett was the first one out of the top 5.
Yeah.
Els King said, I'm 41 and Grady is in my top 5. I'm biased.
Yeah.
I want him in there.
I so want him in there, but it doesn't.
It doesn't feel right to kick the guy out that was, a part of that first Clemson national championship.
Yeah.
I
think you have to show respect to the accomplishment. I mean, Dexter. Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence are 2-time national champions. So, you just have to. Every player on. No, Michael Dean Perry didn't win a title. He's the only one in the top 5 that didn't win a title.
Right.
So, I just you have to. I think you had to show respect to what those players meant, not just how good of football players they were, but what they meant to their respective teams. And I think that's probably what Grady Jarrett was on. He was on some good Clemson teams, but they didn't. Yeah, he never got that title.
They didn't have enough. So, but yeah, there you have it. That might be our most controversial list yet. I don't know. Just because of the amount of names at defensive tackle that were truly great.
I already know when we cut this and upload it, man, I can't wait to read those comments because they're going to roast us alive.
We're gonna get eaten up in the comment section, but that's okay. You don't have to agree with our top 5. Just put your top 5 in the comment section and tell us why we were wrong, and we'll appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, I think we did a good job, honestly.
I think we did. I think we did a really good job.
That might be the toughest position.
That's not easy, man. That's why we kept naming names, and I was like, all right, we got to stop naming people because we got too many names, and we're only taking 5. So we were just making it harder on ourselves. But yeah, that was fun. We'll do another position group next week. But with that said, that does it for the plan portion of the show tonight. We're going to flip it over to the comment section. Still got 33 people in the live chat right now. Go ahead and get your comments, questions into the comment section, and we'll be talking to you guys for a little bit, answering questions before we get out of here for the night.
Yes, we will. All right, let's see what you guys are talking about. John asked earlier if anyone had heard from the fridge in a while. Last I remember was 6 years ago, and he was potentially moving around again. Yeah, I know he's been kind of all over the place over the last, really I know he was living with his brother for a little bit. I know he had issues. He had a lot of health issues. I don't know. I haven't heard much. I don't know what he's doing now. So there might be something to look into. But yeah, I know he was living with his brother for a little bit. He had a lot of things personally that he was dealing with. Tiger Tom asked, where did you guys rank Carlos Watkins? Yeah, I think he would probably be. I don't know if he would be in my top 10, but I think he would be. He's up. He would be fairly high up there. I'd have to think on that.
Carlos Watkins.
Carlos Watkins.
Maybe.
I don't know if he would be, because I don't think his.
15?
Huh? I think I think he would have a place in the top 15 somewhere.
Yeah. That's where I'd go roughly, just off the top of my head, without actually naming names and putting them in some semblance of an order. I would guess he's somewhere around the top 15.
Yeah, Isaac says, defensive tackles are the toughest to rank. Yeah, I think that I think that is the most difficult because there's just not as much. There's not as much separation.
You could almost do a top 5 of like the different eras of Clemson football.
Yeah.
That would make it a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah.
You would have to leave out as many people. But that's kind of cheating. It's a top 5 all time. So
yeah, you kind of have to go with it. Tiger Thomas, who on your list has the most college career tackles? I used to be able to know this off the top of my head. I used to be such a stat nerd. That's a good question. If I had to guess, if I had to spitball, I would think that Christian Wilkins had the most career tackles, but I don't know.
think so.
Yeah.
He had what, 160?
Yeah.
161 career tackles?
I feel fairly confident he would be.
That's got to be the most, right?
I feel like that's got to be the most.
Because I think he had 161 career tackles.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. I don't know. I could be. Hold on. Let me look it up real quick. How many do you have?
Yeah, that would be something to look at.
Christian Wilkins.
Zach Hasselbeck asks, do you guys think we see more 4 and 5 wide receiver sets without a bona fide starter at tight end? No, I mean, I don't. I think you do have. I think you do have a solidified depth chart at tight end. I think Olsen Pat Henry is your number 1, and I think Christian Beneker will be that next guy, and with a mix of Josh Sapp in there. I think you're going to see tight end. Garrett Riley likes using the tight ends. So I don't see a scenario where they're going 4 or 5 wide. I mean, you could do that, and that could be like a wrinkle, but I think they like their tight ends. And I think Olsen Pat Henry showed enough last year that he deserves a role in this offense. So I'm not. No, I think you'll see a lot. I think you'll continue to see a lot more traditional 11 personnel, 11, maybe some 12. But yeah, I think you're going to be mainly 11, pretty much all year.
Okay, I lied. He had 250 tackles.
Okay. So, oh wow, what a difference!
I shorted him quite a bit.
Yeah. Where does he rank? I feel like that has to be number 1. I mean, 150 tackles as a defensive tackle is ridiculous. I mean, he did play defensive end in 2015, so maybe that helped a little bit. But even when he was playing inside, he was. I mean, he was chasing down players and and making tackles. So I would be willing to bet he's number 1. But I don't know. But yeah, to circle back to your question, Zach Haspel, yeah, I definitely expect you to be out of 11 personnel largely like you were last year, with some, you'll have some 2 tight ends sets at times, maybe for a wrinkle or maybe some 21 personnel, but I don't. I think you're going to have a tight end on the field pretty much all the time. Isaac Smith asks, biggest concerns heading into the rest of the offseason. You kind of hit on them. Punter, certainly a huge concern. I don't think you have an answer there right now. And yeah, the depth at corner, I think those would be my 2 main kind of question marks for sure. And I guess who is what is the final iteration of what this offensive line is going to look like? Because again, you're replacing 1 starter, so I guess that is a question mark. But feel good. You feel pretty confident. You have a good idea of what it's going to look like, but you're not entirely sure, like who's stepping in at that left guard spot. I think that's still an ongoing thing. But other than that, this team doesn't have too many questions right now.
Not a whole lot.
Definitely less than we've been able to say in quite some time.
Yeah, punter and punter.
Yeah.
I think the rest of it's going to take care of itself.
Yeah. Punter is definitely number one right now.
Yeah.
John, with a BYOG or Sell, playing at Georgia Tech will be the toughest road game, tougher than Louisville and maybe toughest ACC game. Key has them clicking. Georgia Tech, the toughest. I'm going to Sell because I think Louisville is your toughest road game, mainly because,
I think
I think Louisville is your toughest
Georgia
road
Tech will probably be a close second, but I still think Louisville's a tougher road game. One, it's on a Friday. Two, it's on a short week right after Florida State. And yes, Florida State went 2-10 last year. They're not going to go 2-10 this year. They're going to be improved. How much we don't know, but again, it's still Florida State, and it's on a short week, and you're going to Louisville, playing on the road on a Friday night. It just, to me, that game lines up as all bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get out of there with a win, but that is not a place you want to be. Playing Florida State, coming off a short week on a Friday, it's just, to me, it sets up really bad for Clemson. In that game, and that's why I think it's the toughest game. Now, Georgia Tech might be a better team this year, but just like when you factor in all the other factors of the game, I think that Louisville's a tougher one.
Yeah.
But I don't think Georgia Tech's going to be a cakewalk.
No. And I would put Georgia Tech probably – I would put them third because I mean, playing at South Carolina, it hasn't been
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you have to I think you have to have South Carolina as in that top two because, I mean, just from an atmosphere standpoint, I don't know how to feel about them as a team this year, but I think you have to. I think you have to.
They got a lot of question marks, but again, it's still South Carolina rivalry in enemy territory.
Yeah,
that's tough.
And they fill up that. I just, if Bobby Dodd was more intimidating, I think that's the thing that's keeping me from being like, okay, that's our toughest road game because it hasn't been a tough place to play in a long time. It just hasn't. Like I think Brent Key has done a good job with that program, but they have not it's still not like a overwhelmingly intimidating atmosphere. They don't. I mean, they'll have a larger crowd than normal when Clemson comes to town, but I don't know if it's going to be anything super special. So it's like that's the only thing keeping me from putting them in that top two because I don't think the atmosphere is going to be the same as at Louisville on a Friday night or at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Els King asked, "Does the defense tackle better? Couldn't make it to the spring game." From the reports and overwhelmingly, yes. The team, that was one thing that was one of the more noted.
If they didn't, Tom Allen would have probably come down from the press box and tackled all of them.
Yes, so. lot less shoulder tackles, better angles, a lot of form tackling was what I mean with the big hits as well. But it was cleaner. It was more. It was fundamental. They got guys to the ground. I thought the safeties were they had multiple big play. Ronan Hannafin had a really big hit on David Ajomame in the open field. This team looks a lot more sure of themselves, tackling ball carriers. So
and you had Jeremiah Alexander stand up old hammerhead there, which is not an easy task. So tackling definitely looked to improve, or looked like it improved from everything that we've heard coming out of the spring game. That and you listen to the player interviews, and I think it was Khalil Barnes that they asked about, the how bad the rushing defense was last year in tackling, and what have they done to get better at tackling this year? And he was like, "Have you met Tom Allen?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was like probably the number one thing they circled
Yeah,
that they wanted to improve, and one of the
absolutely.
biggest
Yeah.
goals coming out of this.
Tackling and red zone defense, right?
Yep.
Which is something else that Dabo mentioned in his interview, and what we heard coming out of the spring game was the defense did really well in the red zone, holding the offensive field goals,
Yes.
which is encouraging for the defense.
And I think they also
encouraging
got a
for the
turnover.
offense, but also forcing turnovers. They did that as well. So, can this team actually stop the run? They better, or
they stopped the run pretty well, especially late in the game. Clemson, the offense broke some runs, but there wasn't a whole lot of room for most of the day.
There wasn't a lot of running room. I don't envision Tom Allen putting a defense on the field that doesn't do well at stopping the run this year. Because again, like he's got the players to do it, right? And they spent all spring going back to the fundamentals of form tackling and like breaking it down. At least that's what a lot of the players on the defensive side of the ball said. So I would assume they are going to be much improved in both tackling, stopping the run, red zone defense, all that kind of stuff.
John S. Was Dietrich Pennington on the field at all? I don't think so.
No, I think he was out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was out.
He was injured. I think that was one of the guys that Dabo mentioned that was out injured.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Especially on the offensive line that was out. But again, good for those young pieces and the depth of that offensive line getting a good spring with Matt Luke. I'm not too worried about our starting five being out or missing time. I think our starting five is okay. So.
And speaking of starting five, Jeremiah puts his. He says my starting five: Tristan Lay, Sadler or Sewell at left guard, Linthicum, Parks, Miller. I think that's
probably what it's going to be.
Yeah,
that's probably your starting five right there.
Tig says, "Who do you have as a trap game?" Like, okay, so we've already it feels wrong calling like Georgia Tech or Louisville trap games because we've already circled them. So like a team that I'm thinking of more of a team that we don't really have on our radar right now that could be improved. I guess North Carolina. Because at home against SMU, I think we're going to have I think the team is going to be up for. I mean, I expect SMU to be a competitive team in the conference again. So like, I think North Carolina is the biggest like wild card in this on the schedule. I really don't know what to expect from them, and South Carolina certainly isn't a trap game. So that's just a rivalry game. You look.
Not a trap game. Louisville's not a trap game. Florida State's not.
I think it's got to be North Carolina.
Yeah.
If you told they could be if you there's like a wide range of outcomes that wouldn't surprise me with North Carolina. You could tell me they ended up being much better than everybody expected, or they could be like 2-3-9.
They could win 4 or 5 games and miss a bowl game. They could win no games.
Yeah.
Or they can win like 2 games. Or they could like win 9 games. Who knows? Like, who knows if the Bill Belichick experiment at North Carolina is going to work out? Yes. I tend to be skeptical of it, but again, you can't say the man's not a good football coach. So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. I think that would be my pick, like of a trap game, because like like I said, I don't consider Georgia Tech or Louisville trap games because we've already talked about like I think those are important games on the schedule that you're looking at. The
What
opener
about,
can't be a trap game.
I mean, possibly Duke?
Yeah.
I mean, year 2, Manny Diaz, it's sandwiched in between SMU and Florida State.
That might be I think that might be a better pick, honestly, if you like the truest definition of a trap game of like
Yeah.
because SMU at home is going to be a big game, and then
That'll be a huge one. Rematch
playing
the
Florida
championship
State
game.
is always a big game.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they're good or not. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Duke got because Duke has that transfer Darian Mensah from Tulane that they got, and they were surprisingly good last year. I mean, they had an easy schedule, but yeah, that might.
Oh man, I don't like that at all. Guess what's right before the Duke game?
Don't tell me.
oh yeah. We play Duke right out of a bye week.
Oh.
So we play SMU. We go into a bye week, and then we play Duke.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bye week Clemson.
Bye week Clemson scares me.
Yeah, bye week Clemson does scare me. Maybe that's the pick. Maybe Duke is the pick. Okay, the more I think about it, Duke is the pick.
Yeah,
that could be a trap game.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's the trap game. Duke is the trap game. I don't like Clemson out of a bye ever until they prove me wrong. Yeah. They play terrible out of a bye, and now we got 2 byes, so that's not good.
Yeah, I man after playing Duke after that opener a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we got some unfinished business with Duke.
Yeah. I know it's a different coach. We won't.
I don't care. Manny Diaz is going to have to tote that L.
He's going to have to tote that L, man.
We got some unfinished business with Duke. Yeah, they're going to have to come see us.
What a miserable night that was.
Oh man, that was
terrible. A miserable post game show that was.
Yeah, you remember? And then we had to come on here for like 2 hours and do a post game show, and then it was like simulcasted on the main channel.
Oh man.
There was like hundreds of people in there. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. We were just getting destroyed all night.
Yeah, that was
we
rough.
Were getting destroyed. We deserved it though.
We had to put on a brave face in front of the cameras, and
it wasn't even like a normal loss either. That was like miserable.
Yeah,
like how many would we have? 4 turnovers in that game?
Yep. 3 of which were in the red zone.
3 in the red zone.
We outgained Duke and lost by 22.
2 inside the 5-yard line.
Yep.
2 turnovers inside the 5-yard line. Yeah, freaking ridiculous.
We outgained Duke and lost by 22 points, man.
We outgained Duke. We outperformed Duke in every statistical category. Had 200 plus yards rushing. 200 plus yards passing, and lost the game.
Or was it 20? It was 20. Was it 28-7 was the final score?
Yeah, 28-7.
Jesus Christ, man.
We do play Syracuse. Yes, we do play Syracuse. We play Syracuse right after Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
That is sandwiched in between Georgia Tech and North Carolina.
Yeah. Syracuse could be interesting. That might be another sneaky candidate, but I think Duke is the pick because I think they have more going for them, and that's coming off a bye week. I don't like that. Tig's already thinking about 2020.
Hold up! Before we move on, sorry. Guess what we got right before North Carolina too?
A bye week.
Yeah.
That's right, because we get 2.
We
year.
get 2. So,
again. Yeah.
Bye week before North Carolina, bye week before Duke. Here we go.
Don't care for that.
Don't like that.
Okay, wait. So, and was Louisville after the first bye week last year? Because we had 2 bye weeks last year too, didn't we?
Yes.
No, it was after the second because we had
because the first bye week we played some small school after that.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was.
Was it after App State?
Yes.
Yeah, because we lost to Georgia. Then we brutalized App State, and then it was the bye. Because I remember we were sitting on that App State high for 2 weeks before we played NC State.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we had a bye week after App State. That was our first bye week. And then we had another bye week
before Louisville.
Right before Louisville. Yep. Right before Louisville.
So the second bye week this year is Duke. Is right before Duke. So
yes.
Yeah. That's okay. Duke is the pick. Duke is the pick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the routine that needs to change. Whatever we do on our bye week, we need to switch it up. I don't know what we're doing, but do something else.
Do something else, please, God. Tig's already asking who's going to be QB2 in 2026.
I don't know. Honestly, no idea.
And Chris
Denton, maybe?
Does Tate Reynolds come in? And I mean, if you make sure that you actually get him to campus, like, I don't know.
If I had to answer right now, I guess Chris Denton.
Yeah.
QB2.
But I don't know.
I'll tell you who it won't be. Chris Vizina.
Yeah. I think Chris Vizina will be your starter.
Yeah, I think he will be. And if he's not, he won't be at Clemson.
Yeah. That's probably where when he says.
And I would not blame him at that
No. Wet Sock says, ask any chance we see Walker Parks get his spot taken. I love the guy, but it feels like he's more than likely reached his potential, and there's some very talented young guys behind him.
I think you see him.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility.
I don't know that he'll lose his starting spot, but I think he will split time more and more as the season goes on. Because as we know, like Walker Parks still deals with a lot of pain when it comes to playing football.
Yeah.
So he's not going to play every snap of every game, even if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Even if everything's going right. He's going to rotate. Like, that's going to be a guy that rotates out first just because of, the pain that's associated with him playing football.
Yeah.
So I don't know about get his spot taken, but he'll definitely share time with someone.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's because it's like I don't even feel like he reached his full. I mean, where he is now, I think he's maxed out. I don't think he can get back.
I think due to injury, he can't really get any better.
Yeah.
But I think he had potential to be much better than he is.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Luckily, he can just play football still because that wasn't always on the table for him.
Yeah. David Wood asked, do we still have Banks Pope? Yes.
We do. We do.
Yep, he's still here.
Still got Banks.
I think he had a couple of catches in that in this spring game. A catch or two. John says, when you run out of ranking the best by positions, you need to go to secondary roles, like the best pass pro running backs and punt returners. Oh, that might be something. Oh, man. Yeah, special teams, like punt return.
I know one of the first names that come to mind when I think about punt returners.
Oh, yeah. Justin Miller. No, well, he's on the list, but
he's on the list.
But we were thinking of the other guy that caught a punt at the end of at the end of the
He
game.
just caught a punt in the spring game.
Yeah.
He had to show the young boys that he still got it.
Yeah.
That's my number one. I don't even need to think about it.
Jeremiah says, I can see that Sewell outsnapped him a couple of games, I believe. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely on the table.
Yeah. Like I said, he's going to play. He's going to play in every game. A significant amount of snaps if he's healthy.
Yeah. But
he's also going to share those snaps. Maybe 50-50. Maybe he has less snaps one day. The other guy's got more. It depends. But he's definitely splitting time. He's not going to play a whole game.
Tiger Johnson had to be in Florida this weekend. Didn't see the game. How did Will Help look? I heard nothing but good things. I mean,
all reports is he looks as advertised.
Yeah,
as advertised.
Els King says FSU got Squirrel White and Castellanos from BC. They may be a bit better. I mean, it's hard for them to be worse than 2-10. So
they're going to be better at quarterback.
Yeah,
they got to be.
Yeah,
I'm
interested.
I mean, that's a big time receiver right there. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think that like that. Those were needle moving additions, but I think it's
no.
It probably raises the floor a little bit.
Was he from Tennessee? Right?
Yeah.
Squirrel White. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. I don't know. I mean, Gus Malzahn has done well with quarterbacks like Castellanos. Undersized, can run.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Florida State looks like now that Mike Norvell's not the play caller anymore.
Yeah, they'll definitely have some looks, but historically, Clemson has not had problems with Gus Malzahn type offenses.
No.
I mean, especially when they've played Gus Malzahn, they haven't had.
Yeah, we've had a pretty good history there.
Yeah.
And there'll be a tape by then to have a feel for what they're doing. So.
Yeah, Johnson. Yeah, Knowles can't be worse. Yeah, I don't.
That's very true. I mean, I guess theoretically they could be, but it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to put up a worse record than you did last year. Also, Mike Norvell would no longer be employed. So, well, maybe. I don't know. How much is he owed? I don't know if they have that money.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Saving up for that ACC buyout right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's too much invested in him right now. They need to I don't. Yeah, he does need to win. He does need to win some football games.
Plus, they're remodeling the stadium, so
Yeah.
And Clemson and Florida State, we got all them court fees we got to pay too.
We forgot about that. Brandon says, who do y'all think will be our biggest mismatch on offense? I believe Adam Randall could be, with him having matchups against linebackers. That's a good pick. Because his experience as a receiver will certainly help. He's big. He's going to be a tough guy to tackle. Yeah, you could use him in a lot of different ways. I definitely think he's a good choice there.
Yeah.
I mean, your wide receivers are going to be mismatches for a lot of teams in general. So,
I mean, I think,
and you can do a lot of mix and matching. Have guys,
play Smith, because of his length. That could be a guy that you could point to as a mismatch. I kind of, not that he's the same player, but kind of that Mike Williams type vein where, he's going up and getting balls, high pointing the ball. That's kind of tough. When you're that big, it's tough for those cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Can consistently catch the ball, and you have a very big catch radius. I mean, that's
tough, man. And you got to think he's gonna have the luxury of not having to be against the other team's best corner a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah, no. You can't afford to put your best corner on him. as a defensive coordinator, you can't, like with Clemson's wide receiver room as it currently is, you can't afford to put your best cornerback on Tristan Smith.
Yep.
He's going to see the second or third best corner.
Yeah. So you get him some matchups with some smaller guys. Like, yeah, I think he's a good pick as well. Jason says, for me, a good season is win the conference, win the state, get in the playoff. I mean, I think that's the baseline. I think of expectation. I think for this, especially this team.
Yeah.
I think anything short of that is an abject failure.
Honestly, again, it's early, so I'm not going to go here yet. But as we get closer to the season, I may raise it one level and be like, you have to win a playoff game. Right.
I think I'm there already, but I kind of kept it. I kept it, as conservative as possible. I think that's with the talent on this team, this particular team, with everything you have going for you.
Yeah, because we got to look. 2025 is Clemson's year, right? If you're going to make a real run to the national championship, it's going to have to be in 2025. It's not going to be in 2026, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know that we live in the world of college football where it's possible to just keep reloading year after year to make deep playoff runs. I don't know that that's possible. I mean, not only for Clemson, but for really anybody. I don't know. We'll see what Ohio State's got this year, right? We'll see what Notre Dame has this year, right? But these years of, going to the national championship 2 and 3 years in a row, I don't know if that's happening anymore in college football with the transfer portal and NIL and, it really –
and the expanded playoff
just eating away at everybody's depth and you're right. The extended playoff, the number of games you're playing, like I don't know if it's feasible to like expect that year in and year out. So when you come to a year like we're coming into in 2025 for Clemson we got the right amount of veteran leadership, right? We got with the right amount of returning experience. We got the depth that we need, like when you're in one of these years, like you got to make a push because what's walking out that door at the end of 2025 is massive. And thinking that you're just going to replace it, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's just not. So it's 2025. Like Clemson's got to make a run this year. Or it may be another couple of years before they have a team that's to the caliber that they could legitimately make another run. And I think it's going to go in cycles like that from now on.
100%. Let's do one or two more. Let me try to get some of I'm a little farther behind. Tiger Tom says, you guys should do a top 5 most underrated, underutilized backup quarterback list, one of your shows. Ooh, that's an idea.
That's interesting. Yeah. We might could do something with that.
BYOG, so we will have a kick over 60 yard score points this year. Ooh. I don't know about 60. I think Nolan has the leg.
He could. I mean,
Are you going to be? It's going to be rare that I think that Clemson is in positions where they would rather
even think about it. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, that almost has to be a game winner, right? Yeah. If you're thinking about a 60-yard field goal, like,
because otherwise you're like, okay, well, you're more likely to go for it on 4th down than
unless you're. Well, I mean, maybe if you're at the end of a half,
yeah,
and you're like, well, let's go see what he's got.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it could happen. I would sell just because it'll be rare for Clemson to find themselves in a place where they're going to even consider doing a 60-yard field goal.
Yeah.
The only way I can think about it is a game winner or maybe end of a half where, I don't know, maybe you're up and you're just like, all right, let's see what Brenny's got, or let's see what not Brenny. I was reading Brenny's name in the comment section. Let's see what
Nolan
Hoosier has. But outside of those two scenarios, I don't think Dabo's kicking a 60-yarder.
Yeah.
Nor do I think we could protect.
Yeah, I mean,
proven otherwise.
Yeah, I don't. I would have to see how we block and for kicks this year before I feel comfortable.
Not high on special teams right now.
No. Other than kicker.
Yeah. Other than the kicker. Yeah. Everything else up for question.
Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, it also helps when Chad Morris ran a similar offense that Gus ran. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. Jason, can any of these tight ends fill Brenny's spot? I mean, collectively, I think they can, but I don't think individually one of them is going to be Jake Brenning's stool. At least not right now. But we'll see.
There's a lot of potential in that room.
Yeah. And I don't think you need them to be that. Like that's the luxury of having the skilled talent that you do right now. Like I don't think you're going to need them to be that. David asks, do we have Tristan 1 or 2 years?
One.
Theoretically, you have multiple years.
Yeah.
You have 2, but
I think we for certain have 1 year.
Yeah.
And it depends on his JUCO. I think it depends on where his JUCO years fell.
Yeah.
Whether he has 2. But then again, we could just sue the NCAA.
Yeah.
Like what I do? Who's the one that did it? What's his name?
Diego Pavia.
Diego Pavia. There you go. We could just Tristan Smith can just sue the NCAA like Diego Pavia did and get another year. So
yeah.
Hopefully we have him for 2. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, David, can our field goal kicker punt? Probably. If we, I mean, I know Robert Gunn
It
has
can't
been
be worse.
trying it, but
Can't be worse.
Yeah.
I'm
sure Nolan could figure it out.
Yeah, Nolan could probably figure it out. We'll just have him do everything.
Yeah. Rest in peace, his leg.
Yeah. Oh man, we need a kicker.
Yeah.
Hey, where's Dabo going on vacation this year? We should encourage him to go to Australia.
Yeah. Right. Although we might have picked it, we might have missed our window because I think they're. I read a story that they're like cracking down on that because there have been some iffy, like sketchy eligibility thing. Like I don't know exactly what it was, but the NCAA was investigating some of these punters coming in from Australia. Like there's something like I don't know something. They're always investigating something that doesn't matter. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we need to get Dabo to go to Australia though. Go find us a kicker.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
I mean, all right, guys. Championship winning soccer team.
Yeah.
Is there not somebody over there that can punt?
Yeah.
I mean, they can't be worse.
Really can't, but
I know that's sad to say. And if the punters are watching, I'm sorry, but come on.
We need something.
We need somebody that can be a weapon, flip the field, help the defense out. Something. He said,
please
help me.
Help me. All right. I think that's a good place to
Yeah,
end
we can go ahead and leave it there. Before we put some stuff out we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Mark will get on us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That'll do it for the 115th edition of the All In Show. Wow, that's crazy. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Really do appreciate it. Still got 35 people in the live chat. Thanks for hanging out to the end. We appreciate all you guys. Favorite part of the show is chopping it up with you guys in the comment section. So if you have not done already, hit that like button on the way out. That'll really help us out. And consider subscribing if you haven't already. Share the video with all of your college football buddies and anybody who consumes college football content. But until next Wednesday, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.